Disclaimer: this video contains topics such as sexual assault. If you find these subjects disturbing, you may want to skip this video. Viewer discretion is advised. The VJ Day in Times Square photo is one of the most iconic images to come out of World War II. It's often celebrated as a symbol of joy, the kind that erupted across the world at the announcement of Japan's surrender. Even if you've never heard the title before, chances are you've seen the photo: a sailor kissing a woman in white, mid-celebration, in the middle of Times Square. But there's a side to this famous image that most people don't know. Behind the embrace is a complicated and at times uncomfortable story, one that involves romantic betrayal, public drunkenness, and yes, an act that many have come to recognize as sexual assault. In August of 1945, Japanese Emperor Hirohito announced his country's surrender on the radio. The Second World War was finally coming to an end. Times Square, like much of the world, erupted in celebration. Veterans and civilians alike flooded the streets. Among them was a sailor, reportedly drunk, who, according to witnesses, was grabbing and kissing every girl in sight, whether she was a grandmother, stout, thin, old. That didn't make a difference. And in the midst of this chaos, German-American photographer Alfred Eisenstadt spotted the sailor and snapped a photo of him kissing a young woman. He titled the photo "Kissing the War Away," and it was published in Life magazine. The image would go on to become one of the most recognizable photographs in American history. But what Life magazine didn't tell readers was the full context, or the identities, of the people in the picture. Contrary to what many believed, the sailor and the woman weren't a couple. They weren't even friends. In fact, they barely knew each other. It wasn't until 2012 that the pair were definitively identified. The sailor was George Mendonça, and the woman he kissed was Greta Zimmer Friedman, a dental assistant. And here's where it gets even more complicated. George was already in a relationship. In fact, the woman he was dating at the time, Rita Petrie, is actually in the photo, nearly obscured behind George's shoulder. The two would marry the following year in 1946. And in a bittersweet twist, Rita later said, "In all these years, George hasn't ever kissed me like that."
No, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have.
George passed away in 2019 at the age of 95. Rita followed in 2023. As for Greta, she lived a quieter life, marrying a man named Mishka in 1956. Years later, she clarified her experience in that famous photo, saying, "It wasn't my choice to be kissed. The guy just came over and kissed or grabbed." A statement that recontextualized the image for many. In recent years, some have publicly denounced the photo as a depiction of non-consensual behavior. One statue inspired by the image was even vandalized with the words "Me Too" spray painted on the woman's leg. So while the VJ Day photo remains an iconic piece of history, it's important to remember the complicated and at times troubling reality behind it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the hidden stories behind historic moments, consider subscribing.